Welcome to Bad Elizabeth. I'm your host, Gideon Evans.
And I'm your host, Kathy Egan Taylor. The premise of this show is exactly what it sounds like. Each episode, we profile a different Elizabeth, or derivation of that name.
Like Elisabeth.
Or Sveta.
Or Erzsebet.
Who deserves to be called bad.
This episode is going to be a bloodbath.
That's our producer and engineer, Will Beckton of Jet Road Studios.
Hi, guys.
Our episode today is about Countess Erzsebet Bathory.
Good pronunciation.
Thank you. Welcome to Bad Elizabeth. I'm Gideon Evans.
And I am Kathy Egan Taylor, and we are here with our engineer and producer, Will Beckton, our favorite guy.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm not your favorite guy.
Earlier today, you were.
Second favorite.
Top 3.
And we were at Jet Road Studios.
Studio City, California.
We've had Elizabeth on each episode of this show, varying degrees of badness. I'd be curious to see what people think of this Elizabeth. Is there a weird derivation of Elizabeth we haven't had yet? Yeah.
That would be really weird and unfortunate.
Well, there's like Lizbeths. I mean, there's so many. They really milk that name.
Elsbeth, Elizas.
Mm-hmm. And again, just to reiterate, we're not anti-Elizabeth.
There's plenty of great ones out there.
We have looked at some, and we've had some as guests.
But we cherry-picked these specific Elizabeths.
Yeah.
So today's story is the story of Erzsebet.
Erzsebet?
Erzsebet Bathory. But we're going to call her Elizabeth Bathory because that's Hungarian and we don't speak it.
No, and actually Hungarian is a very tricky language.
It's a beautiful language.
You know what language Hungarian is similar to?
What?
It's similar to Finnish. It's from the same type of language as Finnish. So when Finnish people and Hungarian people meet, they can sort of understand one another a little bit.
So this is the story of the Blood Countess, Elizabeth Bathory.
She's a countess. And what is a countess?
They're part of a royal kingdom, so to speak. Considered a noble woman.
Right.
You got money and you got servants and you got land.
Status.
You basically come with the castle.
Yeah, you can marry into this.
Exactly.
Or you can be born into it.
And elevate your status. It's when you try to marry outside of the family is when things get sticky. But also when you marry within the family, the bloodlines are tricky too because you're intermarrying. Good things don't happen there. So she was born into an aristocratic family in 1560 in the Kingdom of Hungary. Then it was called the Kingdom of Hungary. It's now Slovakia, where she was born.
But there is still a Hungary.
And there's still a Slovakia, isn't there?
Yeah.
Borders get scooched around in that
yes,
area.
They get moved. There's a war. They move borders. They become something else.
Czech
they change
and Slovakia became Czechoslovakia, and then they split up again when the Soviet Union.
Yeah. It's like when Elizabeth Taylor married Richard Burton for the second time.
Right.
Who gets the dogs?
Who gets the dogs?
It's exactly like that.
Exactly like it. It's the same thing. So as a child, she suffered from epileptic seizures, and she was also reportedly prone to these uncontrollable rages and acts of cruelty. Like she liked to torture animals, things like that. And she liked to hit when she got into a fit of anger.
And she was also exposed to a lot of unpleasant stuff.
A lot of unpleasantries.
Like death and...
That was par for the course in those days. It's 1560.
Yeah.
You're old if you're 20, you know?
Right.
So there was a lot of intermarrying in her family. So basically the purpose of intermarrying was to preserve the bloodline. They didn't realize how dangerous it was to actually intermarry. You actually destroy your immune system down the line, because I'm a doctor. And they also say when you have preserving the bloodline also tends to breed mental illness and insanity.
Yeah, and she had that in her family. Like, apparently she had an uncle who would see ghosts and fight them with a sword. She had another uncle that would bite himself, so that's kind of a glimpse into
So what's wrong? I got uncles like that.
You're spending the night at the Bathories.
Exactly. The one that saw the ghost, he just drank too much.
And fighting yourself, like, that's not that big a deal. The fighting ghosts is a little nutty.
Fighting yourself is just like poor man smelling salts.
Exactly.
Well, you want to prove that you're alive sometimes. That's why I light a match to my,
So
I won't finish that thought. I almost said
dangler.
Something.
Let that dangle.
Let's all just have an uncomfortable silence for a second while we ponder Gideon's confession.
But she did, speaking of matches, she would put paper between people's toes and like light it on fire.
Yeah, she liked those little things.
Stuff like that.
So when Elizabeth was 14, she was promiscuous. as a lot of mad girls were. She had an illegitimate daughter with a young peasant boy.
Oh, right.
So she's 14. They basically hid that. They took that child away. It was raised by someone else.
It could have been killed, too.
Could have been killed. They took her away. So after she bore the illegitimate child, they sent her away to a convent to live with the nuns, but it didn't stick because she gets out of there. By 1575, she was married to a nobleman within her family, Ferenc Nasdasti, who was a military hero.
Almost like a barbarian.
He's a barbarian. He's like Conan the Barbarian.
Yes.
He's definitely Conan the Barbarian.
Not as charismatic.
Not as charismatic. He's no Schwarzenegger. But anyway, he was beloved in the Kingdom of Hungary because the Ottoman Empire had swiped it. And he got back a lot of land from the Ottoman Empire.
And I actually took an Ottoman Empire history class, and it's so interesting.
And I grew up in a household that had Ottomans in it.
Right.
So we know the rich history of the Ottoman Empire.
This guy Suleiman the Magnificent was like the enemy of Hungary at the time. And like he was like Napoleon, but nobody talks about him really. He conquered all these lands and they conquered Buda of Budapest. So the Turks were really all over Hungary. So it added to like the anxiety of the time.
Of course. Everything could be taken away. And so they lived in a town of Kashtish, which is now Western Slovakia. And so her husband, he was a little older. She was 15. He was usually off at war. But when he came home, his hobby was like he loved to bring designers in to design Iron Maidens and Judas cradles, which are basically contraptions where you take a living person and you impale them and you watch them die in this impalement machine.
So he would commission them?
Yes, exactly.
What's that store, Brookstone?
Instead of those nice vibrating chairs that roll your back, it looks like a chair, but you put this spike through their middle and you impale them and you watch them die.
Yeah, like the last page of a sharper image.
Exactly.
Back in those days.
And one thing we should mention was, so he was off fighting wars a lot of the time. And he was good at it, but she had to manage the estates.
She was educated. Even though she had a wild side, she was very smart.
And education didn't happen with women.
It barely happened with men.
She also like wore men's clothes sometimes. There was like something interesting going on.
Yeah, she kind of liked the patriarchy of the kingdom. And she took that sort of role on when he was away. She did bear him 4 children. And apparently she was a doting mother.
And part of her job in managing the estate was keeping it safe. Like, it's like the Secretary of Defense or whatever. She was pretty amazing.
She was not eating cake.
She spoke 4 languages.
Exactly.
Like, we're going to get into some crazy shit she did that wasn't very good.
But let's look at the positive stuff.
But these are positive things.
I think the Gutenberg, the printing press was in the 1400s. So they said that she had a press, which was also very dangerous. So she had access to free thought and free thinking. She studied science a lot of like, as a child, that's how she learned things, was like by killing animals. She buried a bird, for example. When she unburied it, she buried it alive. And then she found the worms there. So she learned about decomposition and things like that. So she was learning science as she was being destructive. Also, she was known for having this very dark, dark hair and alabaster skin. She was a beauty. Her beauty was also very important to her. All the while her husband's off at work, coming and going as he pleases, she has 4 children. She's educating herself, but she also kept a diary, and her hobby was torture. And she kept a very detailed diary describing the daily torture she performed, physically bringing in maidens to abuse.
Yeah.
Wow. So just like people in the court or peasants?
Yes. So basically, peasants were considered non-human, so you could do whatever you wanted to them.
And she had all these like people doting on her and combing her hair. And I know one of them like pulled the hair too hard and then she poked her with needles or something.
So there was one thing that she had a lady in waiting or something.
Yeah.
She was brushing her hair. Somehow someone else's blood landed on her alabaster skin, which she later claims cleared it up from any sort of discoloration. So she thought, blood is a good thing.
Oh, and one other crazy thing that she did to torture people, she tied a servant to a pole once and covered them with honey.
That's right.
So that insects would like be
feed
drawn
off of
to her. Anyway.
Yeah.
But the thing with the hair and the blood was an important
That was a big sort of
turn.
Yes.
That was a formative thing.
It was a formative moment. It planted the seed in her. So he died, Nadasti.
At 48.
At 48 in 1604. So she was widowed and she also was left behind with like the biggest fortune at the time. She had a massive fortune. Now she has the fortune to control herself. And she wants to make sure none of that's leaving.
Yeah.
And she also didn't want to remarry. Everyone thought that you should remarry. No, she doesn't want to do that. But she said, I'm going to focus on educating young women and teaching them to read, which was scandalous.
And she did do that.
She did do that.
With like people that were down and out, which was kind of amazing.
And this is the time during the Reformation. So this is when people were, if you were practicing Catholicism in a cave, you were murdered. So it was very dangerous to have any free thought. And she was doing that in her kingdom.
How do you explain like somebody that, I know people are complicated, but how do you torture people and want to help them at the same time?
I mean, I guess both are control a little bit.
True. Good point. Well, she thinks she owns the people and she can do good or bad by them.
I think she's the judge and the jury. Anything she does is right. She's teaching young women how to read, and she has peasant women coming in. And then she starts experimenting with peasant women about, hey, their blood, virgin blood is like the fountain of youth.
She comes to think that like blood is actually
Blood's a good
tonic for her skin and for keeping her youth.
And keeping her youth. And she enjoys the torture part. It's fun. So she's doing this on peasant women, servant women, indentured servants, whatnot. But then she starts bringing in noble women. And at the time, and this was something I learned, that noble women, it was gauche, so to speak. It was déclassé to breastfeed.
Oh.
So they would have wet nurses nurse their children. So noble women would come to the kingdom, to the castle, in the hopes of being their children being breastfed by these peasant women.
Oh, wow.
But now Elizabeth started taking them in and torturing them in. And so this is where the problems start to come in.
And I think the peasants, she was bringing them in, promising they could become servants. So she had these ideas of how to lure people.
This whole story is fascinating. And they say that the evil queen, Snow White, the Brothers Grimm and Hans Christian Andersen always based their evil queens on this character.
Oh, interesting.
So it's this thing of the eternal youth and going after the young beauties.
Well, that is such a topic, too, like even up till today.
What was the jump from the supposed discovery of blood being like restorative on her skin? Was there a lead up or a plunge in terms of her harvesting blood
I think
or whatever?
Her lead up was, she experimented with animals as a little girl and then abusing people later on for sport. It was fun. She had that turning point where she was with the maid and there was blood that came out of ripped hair or something, landed on her skin. She enjoyed the torture. A byproduct of the torture was blood. Blood equals youth. So
it's kind of like Little Shop of Horrors.
Exactly.
Everything got out of control.
And the other thing, too, at that point, the very fact that she has Iron Maidens and Judas chairs in her house, like torture is a form of sport.
That, to me, is very interesting.
It's like pro wrestling.
She has an assistant, too, named Darvulia.
Yes.
Who's like a witch and a mystical person. And yes, Christianity is a big thing in Hungary. But then there are these kind of mystic type people. And I think Darvulia was kind of an influence on her.
I think Darvulia was also sort of like her. She was an independent woman and she was sort of supporting Elizabeth in the kingdom, like, I'm your right hand.
Did they have an affair?
I don't know if they did. I know that Elizabeth was definitely interested in men.
And women.
Yeah, she liked it all.
But I think the blood stuff gave her psychological and sexual gratification.
Exactly.
So the Iron Maiden is so interesting to me because it's in the shape of a woman.
So basically, the Iron Maiden is shaped like a woman. You stand into it, they close it in on you, and it's full of spikes.
She kind of became obsessed with blood. Is there a bloodophile, a phlebophile? She was sort of like a vampire.
Well, that's how the whole myth of vampires coming from Eastern Europe and Transylvania, all that, it all started here. She's been called the vampire of Hungary and that various things. I think what it was, that torture begot blood, which was a byproduct, and then she started to bathe in it.
Yeah, she bathed in it. She drank it. She thought it was like restorative.
Restorative. So she basically had to keep people coming in. It's like almost like her gasoline.
She'd like beat them to death.
She could turn on a dime. Like she could be nice 1 second. And yes, she had no problem torturing or hitting or causing pain.
The interesting thing about her, I guess because of the Countess thing, I wasn't expecting her to be the one doing the dirty work.
So hands-on?
Yeah, exactly.
You'd think she'd outsource that, delegate?
I think she derives such pleasure from the work that, of course, she wasn't going to outsource it. Like, what's the thrill of it? And as I said, it was a time where, like, torture was sport. It's like what people knew.
And she was so proud of it, she also, like, kept a diary. She'd be like, this one is quiet but a little rebellious.
Yes.
Wow.
And this one was kind of nice. And she'd bite them, she'd mutilate them, she'd burn their flesh. So there was bad shit going on. They estimated that there could have been as many as 600 to 650 victims.
Wow.
Which is probably our biggest death count in this whole series.
So was this a mixture of
peasants and nobles? I think what she was starting to do was run out of peasants because then the peasants' family was getting back. We're like, don't send them to the castle. They don't come home. So then she started procuring noble women. And that's when the King Matthias, got involved because he heard rumors of now she's going after noble women. You got to go investigate.
And she thought she was invincible.
I
think she lost sight of the fact that, she could get caught.
Well, she thought her place and her money was going to always protect her.
And to some degree it did. But one thing that happened while this investigation was going on, she started to become a little careless. Apparently, she had students come and help her bury the bodies. It's probably not a good idea if you're being investigated.
You have witnesses.
Yeah.
You have witnesses.
And then she would leave bodies under beds and stuff.
That does seem a little careless.
And she blamed the smells of the bodies rotting on pets.
I mean, none of this really sounds discreet.
No. The other thing, too, while he was alive, her husband, the Count, joined in with these torture sessions. She moved on to not only bathing in their blood and drinking their blood, but she also liked to eat the flesh. Also, apparently, at one point, forced one girl to cook and eat her own flesh.
Oh.
I don't know how it's done.
Man.
But I know it's bad. And because peasants and servants, they were less than human, they didn't matter. But it's when she started luring female nobles to the castle with the promise of wet nurses and education and that type of stuff. And then they came and they were tortured. That's when the king came in. He sent his count and his minions in to check it out. They're like, yeah, she's doing some bad shit. We're taking her to trial. We're arresting her.
And to some degree, because she was a countess and high class, they didn't want a scandal. So it was a little tricky for them.
Like a malpractice suit at a hospital. We have to admit we're wrong, but we don't want to get it too big.
Yeah.
She goes to trial. 4 of her servants were convicted of murder, and they were brutally executed. She instead was sentenced to live her life out in a room in a castle that only had slits for air and food. And she died in 1614.
It was like house arrest.
Exactly.
And they didn't kill her.
No, but she had no sunlight and no communication.
But still, you'd think after killing 600 people,
She was tried for 80 counts of murder.
Yeah.
But she said, according to her diary, that she killed up to 650
and the people, her associates, they were beheaded and burned at the stake, so they purposely made the deaths really brutal.
They drove the point home.
Yes.
Wow, so her diary was pretty thorough, it sounds like. It sounds like she was pretty meticulous.
Yeah, and it's one she kept all her life. She was always a writer, so that's good. She ended up dying in jail, but they call her the first female serial killer and the first vampire.
Oh.
I think she sounds like a monster, quite frankly, especially if they documentation of her torturing animals at a young age.
Well, so many serial killers start
on animals.
Killing animals when they're kids, like Jeffrey Dahmer put heads of dogs on sticks and stuff.
And he also took them to the candy factory he worked. He liked to bring heads with him in canisters to and from the factory. No one questioned it. It's fine. So anyway, I do think she's a monster. And so her legacy is, in pop culture, as I mentioned before, they said that Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen, which was published in 1844, was based on her story. The Brothers Grimm, 1812, the fairy tale, The Mirror Queen. It's that mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all. I mean, that's where this comes from.
Yeah.
She wants the blood of virgins. She doesn't want anyone more beautiful or more youthful than she is. In the movie Hostel 2, which I have not seen, one of the main characters is named for her. And apparently that movie is so gruesome it was banned from theaters.
Really? Fright Night 2, I hear, is also inspired by her.
Fright Night 1 was great, but then Roddy McDowall was not in the sequel.
Oh, he's a great actor.
He was great.
And there's a Swedish band called Bathory, hard metal, and Venom, the metal band, has a song about Bathory.
And then, of course, there's a movie called The Countess, which was written and directed by the actress Julie Delpy, who also played Erzsebet Bathory in the movie, and she's going to be joining us later on.
So there wasn't any vampire mythology prior to her?
When was Vlad the Impaler?
The Impaler, probably earlier than that, but he was the Impaler, not so much of it. This was drinking the blood.
And I think she had roots in Transylvania, too. They were part of the same world in a strange way.
I think the fact that she liked to bathe in blood and she liked to drink it, that makes you a vampire.
Yeah, and it makes you bad, probably.
It seems incredible to me that she could kill 650 people in her lifetime.
Yeah.
That seems like a lot.
I believe that it might have been 600. I don't know. You could probably kill 100 people a year. No?
You got to bring in the victims, and then you got to get rid of them. I think it's the procurement of them became difficult. And that's when the king, Matthias, got involved of like, I hear she's bringing other people. Like, there's something going on here.
I'm sure there was staffing issues throughout their kingdom or whatever. Nobody's picking the potatoes. What happened?
You realize, I'm going to be a maidservant to her. Awesome. I'm going to braid her hair. I'm going to bathe her. Oh, I have to kill virgins? Not for me. When I've worked for Sacha Baron Cohen over the years, sometimes we bring people in and we don't tell them what the job was. And then they would say, they're like, I'm not doing this. And I said, I don't blame you. I understand.
So guys.
Yes.
Is she bad?
I think so.
One thing I do think we should look at, I mean, there was inbreeding. There was clearly a lot of mental illness going on. As bad as killing 650 people is, if you're mentally ill, that could mitigate the badness a little bit. But if you're building torture devices, that does show some premeditation. Did she know what she was doing was bad?
But it's kind of like, it's the world that she grew up in. It's like if you grew up in motorcycle gangs, that's what you know.
That's a good point. Look at what that world was. And it did seem like kind of a crazy world.
And there was not a lot of fun.
No, there was no Netflix.
If there had been a Sephora.
Well, I think this brings up another point. What's that movie with Demi Moore?
Oh, The Substance.
Yeah, The Substance. I mean, this is an interesting topic.
I didn't watch The Substance for that very reason. I just think it's such a hard topic.
It's upsetting.
It's very upsetting. And it was funny. I was out to dinner a couple weeks ago with my husband, and these women were talking about plastic surgery, which is not often covered.
Mm-hmm.
They said, if you go here and here, leave the country to get it, it's only $14,000.
Yeah.
So this scramble for eternal youth and beauty is very much there. Like, men are allowed to get old and saggy. Women aren't.
And do you blame society for that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just think it's sort of a thing that feeds into itself. It doesn't get better.
Yeah.
Though Jane Fonda looks great.
Right. I remember when we worked on this Michael Moore show, and there was a segment that our former colleague Jeff O'Connor did with Louis Theroux about women in the Amazon who sold Avon products. And it was really interesting segment because these women had so little. They were
didn't
very
have running
poor.
water or electricity, but they had Lippy.
Exactly.
You could always play on vanity is always going to be a huge marketplace.
Yeah.
Kind of like branding and presenting yourself. I think the thing that's scary, and it could be comparable to Elizabeth Bathory, is that she was actually bathing in the blood. And when people get hooked on the plastic surgery train, it gets worse. It is addictive.
What are your thoughts about the idea that Instagram makes women feel terrible if you're looking at all these beautiful people?
I think the thing that's dangerous, particularly with teenage girls, so everyone's living on social media. And I have a friend who has a teenage daughter. So he was trying to explain to her, and she goes to school here in LA. He goes, well, those pictures are art directed.
Yeah.
You know this. I can't take a selfie. I don't like taking pictures. It's awful.
Yeah.
Why do you need my fucking picture? Why?
Right.
I think that social media, Instagram is very dangerous because, they don't realize that to look like they do, there's a team of 10 people doing that.
Right.
One thing I think is interesting, I mean, it definitely sounds like she was sadistic.
Yes.
I also wonder if she thought, she seems like a bit of an amateur scientist or something.
Well, Jeffrey Dahmer had that too, where he would drill holes in people's heads.
That's how a lot of people and medical scientists, people worked on cadavers. They were fascinated with the body.
Those days.
In those days. And also, she could get living people to experiment on. But as a little girl, she did like to kill animals and watch how they decomposed and that type of stuff.
She probably thought of herself that way. That's very interesting. I do think there are things that happen sometimes where you're in a marriage or whatever, and then somebody dies, and then you can't bounce things off someone else. You suddenly lose perspective on the crazy things you do. Sometimes it is helpful for someone to be you may not want to kill that child or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Gideon, you don't need another beer before you go to bed.
Exactly.
Having him there was kind of they were thrilled by each other, but they also had each other and they loved each other.
And there was someone else. He could probably bounce things off her too.
Should I cut his dick off?
Right.
No. No, but I do agree, that she suddenly was unhinged.
And alone in this.
Alone.
Nobody was saying no to her.
That's a bad thing. You don't want people around.
I think from the Countess, the film,
Yes.
That's how she was depicted as a child, is that she got what she wanted and that's how she behaved. You don't say no to her. And she was an ill-tempered, but curious girl.
Speaking of the Countess, and we're going to talk to Julie Delpy in a second, I mean, I know that when people play villains or villains in history, you have to play them genuinely and authentically, and you don't play them as a villain. Is there any way to view her in any other way, do you think? I'm curious what Julie will say.
I'm curious, too. I mean, I think this is obviously a story that's very important to her. And she wrote, directed, and starred in it. So she knows it inside out. And I think she brought some empathy to the film and brought a context to it. I'm curious to...
Maybe we should bring on Julie and see what she thinks.
Exactly.
I bet she has
and why she felt so strongly about this story. Exactly.
Yeah. Now we are happy to welcome French-American actor, writer, director, and musician Julie Delpy. She earned Academy Award nominations for her writing on the films Before Sunset and Before Midnight. Lucky for us, her 2009 film, The Countess, tells the story of the very subject of this episode, Elizabeth Bathory. Now we are happy to welcome to Bad Elizabeth an actor, writer, director, and composer, Julie Delpy. She earned Academy Award nominations on the films Before Sunset and Before Midnight. She's worked on too many other things to list. Killing Zoe, Detective, 2 Days in New York, 2 Days in Paris, On the Verge, and more recently, Hostage on Netflix, where she plays the French president. But we want to talk about a beautiful film she directed, wrote, and starred in a few years ago called Countess, about the very Erzsebet Bathory we have been discussing. So thank you for joining us, Julie.
Thank you for having me.
Should we say Erzsebet or Elizabeth? What do you prefer?
I think it's Erzsebet.
Erzsebet, okay.
Erzsebet, but it's Elizabeth.
Yes.
Bathory.
We could do whatever. We could go back and forth, too.
We can do the Hungarian, the Romanian,
It's such an amazing story. Is it something that you always knew about? And what drew you to that story?
I think I always heard about it as the original story that inspired Bram Stoker to write Dracula. She was one of them. I mean, there was Vlad the Impaler, but she was also very inspiring to him because, she had issues, mood issues, rage, stuff like that, because she was a Habsburg. There was a lot of inbreeding. So,
yes,
genetics was not a big thing at the time. They didn't know marrying your cousin and sister was not a good thing. So basically, she suffered from a lot of ailment and probably hallucinations and stuff. And she had the reputation of killing young girls, bathing in their blood. Also, she had competitors. And she had a man called Thurzo that wanted her downfall because he wanted to take over her estate. And he was her cousin. So he was very instrumental into her reputation and her downfall. So I kind of tell all those stories intertwined within the film.
And there's so much fantastical stuff with all the blood that you could have chosen to make something very over-the-top cartoony.
Yeah.
But you chose to make her a human being.
I love when there's a gothic aspect, dark murder, but there's also a love story. I just wanted it to be a love story in a way because I wanted to show that she was full of flaws and maybe a murderess or maybe not. Maybe it's all made up. It's unclear in the film because I wanted to make it, is it really, really happening or is it the story being told? I wanted to have an element of romance because I thought it made it more intriguing and interesting and complex.
And the gothic part of it makes it so beautiful to look at. I mean, you must have had a lot of fun with the costumes and the sets and scenery.
Yeah. Because we didn't have a lot of money to make the film, I said, okay, the sets are going to be one thing. And we did go to one of the castle that was hers, actually, that was in East Germany. Now it's in Germany near Dresden. So one of the castle was actually one of her castle. But
oh, wow.
I insisted that the clothes were absolutely amazing because I was like, the film will be focused on the actors. So I had this guy, Pierre-Yves Guéraud, who I worked with a few times that I love. And he went really, really far to make this. He actually used silk from costumes from the 19th century.
Wow.
That he remodeled into the costume for the film. So actually the costume, once I wore them to shoot the scene, they were pretty much done. because it was silk from 200 years ago or 150 years ago. It didn't look like brand new silk. It looked like it was lived in. And the quality of the silk also, he told me, was very different 100 years ago, but not that different 100 years ago than it was 400 years ago. It was the same system. And he went to Romania to find original costumes and stuff like that. So it was really, he did an insane, beautiful job.
When you put that costume on, how restrictive are they as a woman? How did you feel in it?
It's just so restrictive that, if I was on that time of the month, I could barely fit it.
I know. How miserable that would have been.
Water retention was like, or if I ate right before, I couldn't really fit in. So I had to pretty much not eat during the day. And it was hard because I had to direct as well. So it's true that I might not do this again anytime soon, to direct and act in a period piece that is in corset. Directing in corset is not recommended.
And I did want to ask you about directing and acting. Is the director, Julie Delpy, a tough director to work for when you're an actor? Like, are you kind to Julie as the director?
I'm pretty kind. It was quite an intense shoot. It was physically exhausting because of the costume, but also, shooting in those locations. We were shooting in film.
Oh, wow.
And I have a tendency to shoot quite a lot for a film of this budget. It's $7 million. It's really not a lot of money for a film like that, right? For example, we had a battle scene and I had 10 extras.
Wow.
It's like, how do you do a battle scene? So you sort of use your imagination and it works out okay. Sometimes you have to make compromise. So the intensity was not from me, but it was from the condition of working on a pretty small budget movie for the kind of scope of film.
And a big line in the budget must have been the fake blood.
We had also the mechanism of the Iron Maiden and the torture chamber and all that stuff. But we went to shoot in real locations that were, basically torture chambers or prisons from 300 years ago. I mean, the main bedroom was a studio because we had so many scenes in that bedroom, but everything else was pretty much on location.
It was a French and German co-production, wasn't it?
Yes.
So what language did you all speak in?
The DP was German and he spoke German to his crew. There was also Belgium team.
Yeah.
The set designer was Belgium and he had his Belgium team. I think the sound men were Belgium as well.
I just think it's so interesting, like you're directing, writing, starring, and composing it, and then you have this whole crew of people speaking different languages on location.
Different language.
You were wearing many hats.
It is a challenge.
Yeah.
I found out at the beginning of the shoot also that my mom had lung cancer. So it was a very difficult shoot for me emotionally. But, once a film is greenlit, you have to make the film no matter what. So you don't really have a choice. And I wanted to make that film. What I discovered a few years later? My neighbor who was taking care of me because my parents were on stage a lot. So she was this really nice old couple. The husband was French and the wife she had an accent, but I never thought of asking where she was from. And I eventually, when she passed away at 110,
wow,
we found out that she was Hungarian. And actually, her name was Bathory.
Oh, my goodness.
She was a descendant of Bathory.
So it was meant to happen.
Yeah. And what's crazy is that she really raised me. And I think she told me that story.
Wow.
When I was a little girl and I was staying at their place. And I remember years later, I was like, I remember seeing that castle on their wall. And it's the castle we ended up shooting at.
That's wild.
And it was really strange. Like, I was like, wow, that's amazing that this story was with me for so many years, basically from childhood.
She planted a seed.
Almost like fate.
Yeah.
And Hungarian is such an interesting language, too.
Yeah, it's not actually a Slavic language. It's something else.
So interesting.
Yeah, I mean, she spoke Hungarian. The original Bathory spoke Hungarian and German because it was the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So it was half German, half Hungarian.
And her uncle, Bathory's uncle, actually became the king of Poland at one point.
Yes.
Which gave her agency.
What's interesting in the men that I put in the film from doing my own research is that Thurzo, István and his father, Georgi Thurzo, they became a very, very prominent businessman. They became the Thurzo-Fogger family in Germany that had huge mining. And he was an interesting man because he was obsessed with Machiavelli. Some people claim that he created the concept of capitalism because he adapted the ideas of Machiavelli with war to business.
Oh, interesting. You wrote this movie, and it was something that you're always interested in writing and directing. How long did it take you to write this film?
Well, what's crazy with this film is that I woke up one morning and I was like, okay, now I've got to write this. I had been thinking about it, and I wrote it in 5 days.
Oh, wow.
Of course, I did 1,000 rewrite afterwards, but the first draft, which was basically 100-page, I wrote about 20 pages a day in 5 days. And then I composed the music, all the main themes the day after, basically. So I had a script and a music written for the film in about a week.
That's incredible.
And it's weird because when I wrote it, it felt very organic for me to write this. It just came to me as if that story had been told to me before. And it probably had been in childhood,
And it was. And Kathy had sent me an article from the Irish Independent where you were interviewed and you said you had ADHD.
Yeah.
My son does as well. And how does that affect your writing? Does it hurt or help?
I think sometimes it can be hyper good because then I'm extremely productive and focused. And then sometimes I will go like a bee. I'll be like all over the place and it's almost a nightmare and it's torturing me. But when I get into something, it's almost like I'm on a high speed road, and I'm very, very, very focused. And I say high speed, but without drugs. And I think that's pretty common with ADHD is that you can be all over the place. And then suddenly something just like becomes boom, one thing that you can't stop doing and even not sleeping and stuff and spending 48 hours working and stuff like that. It's happened to me before. Now I'm a little bit more, I wake up, I start writing at 8, I end at 4 or 5, and then I have a life. Before I had a kid, when I would go into spur of writing, I used to have no life. So now I'm, I have to have a life.
Exactly.
Which is good.
No, it's important. It's very important to know when to turn off.
Yeah.
The legend of Bathory is that she basically lived off the blood of virgins. It was going to give her eternal youth and stuff like that. And the rumor is that she pulled some peasant woman's hair and the blood fell onto her hand and it
rejuvenated.
Which is like beauty treatments we were looking into, like the vampire facial.
Well, now it's pretty close to it.
I know.
And they're also studying mice, and they're injecting young blood into the brain of mice. And
oh my God.
Exactly.
Maybe she stumble into something.
I think the thing is with the vampire facial, they extract your blood and then they pull out the plasma and then they inject it back into your face.
So wait, it's not the Kardashians' blood because that would...
No.
That's half silicone, I think.
That doesn't sound like a good idea. I don't know why, but no. It's your own blood, I think.
Yes.
But that seems a little bit intense.
I mean, you think that what she did was so crazy. It was crazy, and she killed a lot of people, allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah.
But the blood thing is probably not that crazy.
I have to say, interestingly enough, I'm not obsessed with eternal youth. I am obsessed with eternal youth as a concept, something that fascinates me. I actually saw Del Toro film Frankenstein, which is absolutely beautiful.
Is it good?
Oh, wow, yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
Cool.
By the way, he told me he put a reference to the Countess in it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
The idea of pursuing eternity is something that's interesting to me. I wouldn't do it for myself because I'm not into the visual of beauty, youth, and all that. I don't really care so much about that. Transcending death is an interesting subject matter. Even though as I'm getting older, I'm more at peace with the concept of it. I think when I was younger, I was a little more scared or a little more intrigued by the concept of eternity.
Not to live in pain. It's funny because I just read this thing about Dick Van Dyke. He's 99, and he said, it'll be a joke if I die before my 100th birthday. But he's also saying, like, I've done my time here.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
My grandma died at 100. She was done. She was bored. She said it. One morning she woke up, she's like, I'm bored. She died 2 days later,
Yeah, I had a grandmother who was 106.
Wow.
She kept saying, God must be mad at me.
I know it's like a big question, so I apologize for asking it in advance, but what are the differences between kind of how the societies view beauty and women in France versus America?
It's definitely pretty intense in America for women. I think it's a little more laid back in France, I think also the fact that I'm in LA, in Hollywood, if you wear the same dress twice, people look at you like, I make a point to actually wear the same clothes. I've been wearing the same dress. It's convenient, practical. It looks fine. And I don't care.
That's actually a good ruse that they used to do in the 40s with paparazzi, to throw them off just to wear the same thing all the time.
Oh, really?
It's not as attractive if you're wearing the same thing.
That's really smart.
So that's actually, you're being quite clever that way. But I totally understand. Just wear what you're comfortable in, and if it looks pretty, that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care. I mean, I can't be too worried. I'm a director, I'm a writer, I'm also an actress, but I cannot spend my life worrying about looks, because otherwise I would not write. I would not write music. I would not write screenplays. I would just do that. I have no judgment. People do whatever it feels right for them. But for myself, I can't bother,
I guess pulling from many interviews that we've read with you, you said you've had trouble with the word feminist. Do you want to elaborate on that, or any thoughts on that?
No, I don't have a trouble with that word at all, because it's an important word. I am a feminist because I work. I'm completely independent. I've never been dependent on anyone financially. I moved the day of my 18th birthday. I was completely financially independent from anyone for the rest of my life. So I would say that's feminism. I'm not like feminist, like, oh, I can do this, I can do that. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I'm happy my husband is doing. I'm not, I don't want to show off that I'm a tough woman, because that I don't believe is feminism. I think it's nothing. I think it's silly in a way. You know what? I'm a feminist, but I do love men. And I love working with men, and I get along with men. I'm more an equalist. That's not,
Yeah, no,
a humanist.
I know what you mean.
A humanist.
Yeah.
I just like equality. I just like every human is the same and should be treated the same. But I am a feminist too,
Is there a feminist lesson in The Countess?
Yeah. Well, some people tell me, oh, if the world was ruled by women, it would be a better world. I say, not every woman is.
Right.
I mean, if we want equality, we have to accept that some women are not the greatest people. I mean, it's not because you're a woman that you have a passport saying, I'm a better human being. Some women are wonderful and some men are wonderful and some women are terrible and some men are terrible. No one is perfect. We're all full of flaws and contradictions and good and bad and all that shit. It's just, I'm sorry, I'm swearing.
No, don't know.
We swear all the time.
We use the word shitty a lot, apparently.
It is good.
Shitty is a good word. And it must be so much fun to play like a villainess.
I love playing villains. I mean, I have to say it's a lot of fun. For many years in my life, I played the romance. I did write it too. So it was interesting to explore romance as a young woman, as a middle-aged woman and stuff. But playing people with more complexity, I mean, I would love to play like a female version of like, The Shining or something.
Oh, that'd be great.
That would be extremely fun. You know what I mean? So
that could be fun.
And I think I would be good at that, because I remember I shared my apartment in New York with a very sweet young guy, very kind. We were just really friends and stuff. And I remember I loved to scare him. And he was terrified.
Did you pop out of closets? How did you scare him?
Because I'm very good at playing crazy and scary.
Oh, okay.
You have to do The Shining. You have to write that script.
So I guess getting back to Bathory, would you consider her, like, we use the term bad?
Yeah.
Do you think she was bad?
I think if she did what she did, yeah, she was bad. But I think she was also mad. She was suffering from mental illness, which at the time was not considered mental illness because it didn't exist. Apparently, the inbreeding was triggering terrible hallucinations and sort of fits, rage. She was suffering from a lot of health and mental issues. Also, it was a time where people of that kind of stature were allowed to kill people. If you decided that a maid had stolen something, she was dead the next day. I mean, it was not something unusual,
Yeah.
And she could be a feminist, but she could also be a monster. It's funny, when I was studying writing, I remember this teacher said to us that in Shakespeare, you have the ultimate character, which is Hamlet, who is multifaceted. He's good, he's bad, he's sane, he's mad. So he has all the facets. He's almost everything, right? And then you have Ophelia. She's like one thing.
Right.
So I don't want to say she's good or bad. She's all of it. Being a woman has been a complicated thing. I say that at the end of The Countess. I say if I had been a man, I would have been a hero. We always joke that if you're tough on set, you're a bitch. And if you're, if you're a man, you know what you want. It's a bit exaggerated, but, it's still a little bit like that. It's changed and it comes back and it's, equality is not a linear thing.
Yeah.
And congrats on Hostage. That was, I think, the most watched show on Netflix for a while.
It was very, very successful. And I didn't expect, I did enjoy shooting it, but, sometimes things are successful and you're like, oh, great.
So what's next for you? What's coming up?
Well, I did shoot something this spring, a film. Actually, I shot in Hungary, but it's not Hungarian. It's called The Entertainment System is Down.
Oh, is that the one on the plane?
Yes.
That's a Triangle of Sadness guy.
Yes.
I love that director. That's going to be great.
I had a few scenes with Keanu Reeves.
Oh my God.
Kind of really fun. It's a comedy. Dark comedy, his style.
Can't wait to see it. And we hope our audience, if you're interested in this topic of Erzsebet Bathory, will watch Julie Delpy's film, The Countess.
But that's interesting that you decided to do the Bad Elizabeth.
It's very specific.
Yeah, very. And at first I was like, how can that be? And then I listened to the podcast of another Bad Elizabeth.
Oh, good.
And that was interesting. So
the fun thing, too, is just sort of exploring these things and trying to put yourself in the context of time, especially like Elizabeth I was so fascinating to me.
They were bad, but not just bad. Like, I think that's interesting to me. They were women of their time, too, and powerful women.
Exactly.
Powerful women always have sort of a bad reputation.
And particularly a lot of the business women we see today, like who've made it to the top. Like my mother, when she worked, they said, you're a bad mother because you work and you have children,
Yeah. In Germany, they call it Revenmutter.
Revenmutter.
The blackbird.
We could talk to you for hours about many things.
This is fantastic.
Thank you.
We've learned so much and so interesting to hear about the making of the film.
Oh, yeah. It was an adventure a bit. It was very intense.
Thank you so much. And we always look forward to seeing you, anything you do. It's always delightful. So
thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Gideon.
We'd like to thank our guest, Julie Delpy, for sharing her experience writing, directing, and acting in The Countess. We were glad to learn that no virgins were harmed during the making of that movie, or this podcast. If you want more information on Erzsebet Bathory, you can find that in the show notes.
You've just heard the last Bad Elizabeth of 2025. We hope you liked it. Thanks again to Julie Delpy for talking to us about Erzsebet Bathory. We think she's amazing. Julie Delpy, that is, not Bathory.
How cool would a remake of The Shining be with Julie Delpy as the Jack Torrance character?
That needs to happen. Can I play Danny Torrance to her Jack?
That would be weird.
Red rum. Yeah.
We just wanted to take a moment to thank you, the listeners. It was an incredible year. It's really been gratifying to see this show with such a specific premise speak to so many people. So we have a lot to be thankful for. We'd also like to extend our gratitude to the writers at The Guardian, The Irish Independent, and The Information, to Apple Podcasts and Spotify for promoting us on their platforms. We'd also like to thank Ariel Nissenblatt from the Earbuds Collective for all the great work she does in the podcast space.
We are so grateful for the glowing reviews, of course, but we're also thankful for the listeners who point out when we completely screw up facts. It does happen. I have to say, though, the 1-star review we got on Apple that says we want people to hate everyone named Elizabeth, I'm not thrilled with that one. We keep saying we don't hate all Elizabeths, but I guess, bad is in the title, so blah, blah, blah.
Anywho, we were beyond grateful to have so much support. It's hard to express how much it matters to an indie podcast like ours.
I also want to give a shout out to Amber Becton.
Of course.
Lovely Amber.
Amber's wonderful.
And all the amazing guests we've had.
And originally we planned on making 8 episodes for season 1 of Bad Elizabeth, but due to the show's success, we will be recording more episodes in the new year. So after a brief hiatus, we will be bringing you brand new episodes featuring questionable Elizabeths, as we are nowhere near scraping the bottom of that barrel.
Oh, yeah, it's a deep barrel, all right. Which reminds me, we've been having a lot of fun with the Bad Elizabeth Substack. We do a lot of research for these episodes, believe it or not, and it often feels like we've only scratched the surface with certain topics. Substack has been a perfect place for us to do even deeper dives on Elizabeth Finch, Liz Taylor, and Lizzie Borden. Elizabeths. And we're going to be active on Substack during the hiatus, so reach out.
Check us out at Bad Elizabeth Pod on Substack. Thanks again for an amazing 2025, and we look forward to seeing you in the new year. Thank you for listening to Bad Elizabeth. Please rate and review the show on places like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We are Bad Elizabeth Pod on Instagram and Substack.
Feel free to email us at badelizabethpod@gmail.com if you have any questions or comments.
Bad Elizabeth is recorded at Jet Road Studios. It is hosted by me, Gideon Evans.
And me, Kathy Egan-Taylor. It is produced and engineered by Will Beckton, and our executive producer is Amber Beckton.
Our theme music was composed by Alexis Guardado and Danny Gray. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.